Today, I thought that we'll have a look at a few uh, currency pairs alongside some of the macros depending on the time that we get. So, the chart that I have in front of us is actually the USDINR currency pair, and the time frame that I've selected is weekly. The purpose of selecting the weekly time frame is to underscore a clear all-time high breakout of the USD against the Indian rupee, and which an all-time high breakout obviously establishes a clear uptrend. The only question that remains when we have an uptrend is how strong is the uptrend, and that's generally answered by the extent of the pullback. So once we know that a security is potentially trending, what we want to do is select some moving averages. Here I have selected the 2050 moving average, which is fairly common on the weekly time frame, and we see that um, clearly the USD has broken the 20-week moving average and is currently trading in between the two moving averages, which is known as the value zone. So it depends on where the support comes. We will have a clear understanding of how strong the trend is. Where if the trend basically takes a support on the 50-week moving average, we know that it is a moderately strong bullish trend. Historically, the USD has always been up, so it makes sense to look at this particular move inside the critical averages as a buy the dip opportunity. And once we have this assessment on the longer time frames, we look at the shorter time frames to have an understanding if what are the potential buy the dip opportunities. So just move to the daily. And so here we have the USDINR daily chart. We can see this all-time high was broken up with a gap which was immediately tested. And some amongst the other key characteristics is the presence of this range right here. So for example, let's take a ray. So if we connect these highs right here, so we clearly have this short-term range that was set here, and when we zoom in, we see that after this test, there's a pullback, and after which the dollar rallied to its all-time high. So this becomes an interesting starting point, which we label as point X later. And next we see is a move inwards followed by a lower top and now a lower bottom. And the question is, where could the potential reversal zone be consistent with the long-term trend of this particular security? So to identify that potential reversal zone, we'll simply connect the lows to the highs, followed by another low, which is around here, to this high. And I'll just complete this for now. I'll just give the input in a bit. So, yeah. Okay, so when we connect the low to the potential high, so basically this is the starting point X, and just for the purpose of labeling, mark A as the clear higher top. Right, A becomes a clear higher top. What we get further here is on B as the higher bottom. Incidentally, and what we get here on C is the lower top. And currently we have a price trading below the previous higher bottom, signaling at least a range or the start of a collective move in the USD against the INR. So now the question is, where do we hypothesize the potential reversal points of the range? So if you remember, in the previous video we had discussed a bearish bat pattern formation in the index. So this is a bullish bat pattern hypothesis for the USD INR, and the reason is as follows. Point B is at a 38% retracement of XA, and point C is below the 88% retracement of AB, 88.6. This completes from XABC. This completes the bullish bat pattern, and the bullish bat pattern will get confirmed if first the move reaches at least 1.618 of BC, which is 73.99. So we'll just mark this here as the first, so just mark this here as the first support zone. The next target for this on the downside will be a 2.618 move, which will be somewhere around here, which is quite extended here. So this is the second support zone, and the final support for this particular pattern comes at 0.886 of the XA length, which is right around here. So there we have it. So just to conclude, just to make a few points right here, on the weekly, we see that the dollar has created an all-time high, confirming uptrend. On the daily, we are seeing a pullback, and we are hypothesizing the potential reversal zone using the bullish band pattern. Support PRZ, or the support points, are coming at 73.99, 72.53, and 72.21. When we check this on the weekly, so we are getting our supports pretty close to the, so I'll just remove this. So we are getting our support points pretty much here at the value zone 1, near the 50-week moving average and slightly below the 50-week moving average, which looks like a great place to accumulate the dollar. Till then, one could obviously, because we are seeing a higher top, higher bottom, lower top, and a question mark here whether whether this is going to be a lower bottom or a double bottom. This is a question that we have for the price action here, but it makes complete sense to be short on the dollar if you're trading on shorter time frames. So there we have it. This is the assessment for USDINR. So while we are on it, maybe we can just have a quick look at the Euro INR. Right. So before we begin, we'll first have a broader look at what are the trading conditions for the security, and for that what we do is we simply first once again set up the weekly time frame, and as we have discussed this in one of the videos before, we connect the highs, and here we basically got a clear case of triple top for sure, and when we connect the lows right here, this is so here we get two connects on the lows, which basically which means that there is a hypothesis that this is the lower trend line. Now in the recent price action, what we have is a long-term trend line, upward resistance line, which has been in place since 2013. August 2013, has been recently tested and broken by the euro. The question is this breakout real, or is the move a false one? So technically the answer will be confirmed basis the reaction around the previous pivotal points, that's around here, which basically implies that if this breakout is real, if this breakout is real, then what we want is so say for example, when we have this move right here, we want a pullback till anywhere around this level is acceptable, and then it will be followed up with another continuation move in which sooner or later this particular high, this high that has been created, will be taken out. So this will be the resistance point, which we'll mark on red. So so till that time, given that we have a 7-year resistance point on which the euro has which has been challenged by the euro, we could also trade this simply with the hypothesis that the euro is likely to make a move of this fashion, and it could come and test this. Both are acceptable cases. We obviously see that the security is critically poised, and in order to take a trading decision, I think it's always best to have a look at the shorter time frame while in order to take an analysis or a hypothetical decision on where the security is trending, it's always useful to have a longer time frame. So when we move our assessment to the shorter time frames, so when we move our assessment to the shorter time frame, what we basically see is consistency in the weekly and the daily chart. At this point here, we have what is known as the higher top, clearly. So we make it a little bigger. So this clearly is the higher top, and here the question is whether this is going where in this particular range does the security show a pullback. So in other words, we would simply call this point A. This higher top is moving as point B, and we now need to see, we already see that point C here is at a 50% retracement up till 61.8, which is somewhere around here. It's a fairly strong up move. Below it, that is say 0.786, 0.886, we have a weakish move, and the breakout will really be in question. So I think 0.618 would be the last point in which any bullish play is there. Otherwise, based on this, we will assume that there will be a move to some level, and the move will follow downward. So that's that as of now, given that we have a higher top and we know that there is clearly selling pressure here. If you zoom on the time frames, you will notice that there is a sort of a M pattern that has been formed. Sorry, I'm just remove this here, right here. This gets deleted. And this will obviously be more apparent in the in an even in an even smaller time frame, like in the hourly. So yeah, but any which ways, I think it makes fair bit of sense to play this on the direction of the momentum. Fairly logical to have a positional stop loss around these levels. This would be a critical resistance point, and it'll be interesting to see till where exactly between this zone does the euro actually form the bottom, which will decide on critical elements such as position sizing, direction of the overall bet, etc. So there we have it, a currency overview. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Have a good weekend. Take care. Cheers.